When a good Samaritan man saved 4 birds, they thought he had done a good and kind deed, but shortly after, he was rewarded for his kindness in the most beautiful and wonderful way ever. In fact, it was a sight to behold. Joseph Sekar, a man living on a quiet street in Triplicane, one of the oldest neighborhoods in Chennai, a coastal city in India, made his living as an electrician, in addition to pursuing his passion for photography and working with cameras on the side. There was nothing particularly special about Joseph. He was just an ordinary man living an ordinary life. But one day, something completely extraordinary happened to him. Joseph woke up early one morning and made himself a pot of coffee. It was always good for him to get some caffeine in his system before starting his day. As he sipped his coffee, Joseph opened his balcony door to let the cool air in. But that's when he noticed something out of the corner of his eye. There was something small and green in the corner of the balcony. Joseph didn't keep much out there, just a chair and a small table, so seeing something vibrant and colorful was a shock. The shock grew. When he turned his head to study the object in the corner of the balcony, Joseph's eyes widened as he realized exactly what he was looking at. It wasn't just one small green object, but 4 of them. 4 magnificent emerald parrots. These relatively small birds are a very intelligent species and love warm, temperate climates, which makes them very common in India. Joseph had seen many parrots before, but none of them had ever been this close. It seemed very strange. Why were they there? Why didn't they fly away? Far away, while Joseph was getting closer to them? It was certainly a strange and confusing series of events, Joseph thought to himself at first. It's common to see parrots in these parts, but they tend to keep to themselves and don't bother people. At least most of the time. They were bold enough to steal leftovers if you left a plate on the porch, but they'd fly away again and wouldn't stick around. However, the area had recently been hit by a hurricane, fortunately. Joseph's house wasn't damaged, but many buildings were destroyed and people even lost their lives. The animals weren't spared either. It seemed that the parrots sitting on Joseph's porch were among the unlucky victims. The birds looked battered and confused, with damaged wings that made them unable to fly, so Joseph did the only thing that made sense to him. He felt sorry for them and went home to try to find them some food. He had never owned any birds before, so he didn't have any seeds to give them. Instead, he brought them some rice. The parrots chirped happily when Joseph approached, and they gratefully took the rice from him and ate it quickly. For several days, the birds stayed on the balcony, eating the rice and drinking the water that Joseph provided for them. It was clear that the care was having an effect, and the birds began to gain strength and health with each passing day. Eventually, the parrots were able to start flying again. After several failed attempts, the birds seemed healthy, and they began to regain their confidence and ability to fly. Meanwhile, Joseph sat at the other end of the balcony and watched proudly, because he was able to help the little birds in some way. Would they have survived without his help? We can't be sure, but what we are certain of is that the 4 parrots had a much greater chance. With Joseph by their side, slowly but surely, the parrots began to return to normal, but with one distinct difference. They were no longer afraid of Joseph's presence. It's likely that she understood he was there to help her, and accepted him. That's why she started to fly, flutter, and hover around the balcony, sometimes heading out into the open air before quickly returning, as if Joseph's balcony had become her new chosen home. The 4 parrots started to attract some attention from the neighbors. They weren't used to seeing these small, beautiful emerald green birds being so social and close. They often praised Joseph for being special and for being the one the birds chose to stay with. I think kindness is kindness, whether you're an animal or a human, said one of Joseph's neighbors. It's clear that there's a kind of magical and divine trust between the 4 birds and the man, and that's something that should be celebrated and encouraged. The world needs more love and help, and Joseph is doing his small part to make the world a little better. He's a good man. Of course, Joseph had become very attached to the little birds. He had never had any pets before, but he found that he really enjoyed being around the parrots, feeding them, watching them, and taking care of them. Unfortunately, there was someone who was less happy about the arrival of the birds. The landlord of the house Joseph was renting had found out that he was keeping the birds as pets and ordered Joseph to either get rid of them or move out of the rented property. Of course, Joseph argued that they were on the balcony, which was an open place for the elements and animals. One morning, Joseph woke up and went out to the balcony and saw something very sad. All 4 parrots were sitting on the edge of the fence. One by one, they flew away. This time, they headed toward the sea and far away. Joseph smiled sadly. He had done his part. He was a good Samaritan and made a difference in the lives of those 4 little birds. He turned slowly and went back inside, his mind occupied with the 4 birds he had grown attached to. At least, the homeowner would be happy with the development. But soon something would happen that would leave Joseph and the other residents of Chennai in absolute shock. It was truly something you had to see to believe. After a week or 2 of life returning to normal, the parrots finally returned, but it wasn't just the 4 of them. They brought friends along. It started with 1 or 2 extra birds, then with each passing day, more and more gathered on Joseph's balcony. It seemed that the 4 parrots had somehow communicated that the balcony was a safe place and that Joseph wouldn't harm them. In their own way, it was as if they were thanking Joseph, showing him they trusted him by returning with their friends and family. Joseph was touched and his heart filled with pride. Each time more birds appeared at first, after the 4 parrots flew away, 5 or 10 parrots would come. Joseph recalled how the flock began to grow. Within a year, more than 1,000 parrots started coming, and the numbers kept increasing. Now, about 300 parrots come. In any season, during the rains, their number rises to 6,000, and during cyclones, these numbers increase even more. They don't like the heat, and their numbers increase in the winters and rainy seasons. And the homeowner is not happy. It's not that I care. Today, after many long years since the story began, Joseph has a large group of birds that come to his balcony regularly, whether they're looking for food or seeking shelter. Joseph was happy to provide them with everything they needed, and sometimes he had to pinch himself in amazement at how wonderful the situation was. People stop and look in amazement at this beautiful scene of so many birds gathered together, all thanks to him being kind to those 4 little parrots he saw all those years ago. In fact, it's not surprising that Joseph is now known as the Birdman of Chennai. And now it's up to you. What do you think of this wonderful story? Have you ever heard of something strange and unusual like this? Would you have taken care of the parrots if you were in Joseph's place? As always, we love to hear from you, so make sure to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below.